You're listening to At the Core with Sarah Friend, in which I have conversations with women in leadership. As the president of a firm, I'm honored to be a leader and have this platform to connect with other women in leadership, to talk with them, hear their stories, and celebrate their unique journeys and impact. This episode, our guest is Melanie Marconi, CEO of VIDA Coworking, a community-based co-working company that offers workspace, support services, and curated amenities to help make life work. An accidental entrepreneur at age 23, Melanie was a co-founder of BDI Events, Where Will They Stay, and the Modern Concierge before launching VIDA in 2019. She has long been active in the nonprofit community and currently serves as board chair for Accelerate Women, an organization dedicated to supporting the myriad needs of growth-focused women entrepreneurs. Well, welcome, Melanie, CEO of VIDA Coworking, a community-based co-working company that offers workspace, support services, and curated amenities to help make life work. I love that.
Thank you. And thanks so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
When you and I met, we had the opportunity to connect with a whole group of women leaders. And that was just such an incredible first meeting.
So amazing.
It was really wonderful. It just felt like so authentic from the very start of everybody just being able to share their stories about how you stepped into this leadership role. And yours just struck me as so bold and courageous that at 23, I love the way you describe yourself as an accidental entrepreneur at the age of 23.
Yes. So I knew I wanted to work in journalism somehow. And so I ended up going to the journalism school at the University of Oregon, go Ducks. And I decided I wanted to work in personal publicity. And so I moved to Los Angeles and started at an internship there, but got offered another job eventually and was working in event planning and public relations. And then the owner of that company started having some financial problems and our paychecks bounced, which, puts everyone on high alert. And so
especially at 23, when you cannot afford in LA. You're like, I ran out of money 3 days ago.
Right. I was really waiting on this one. My rent's due. Luckily, I could pay my rent on a credit card back in those days. So I gathered my two coworkers and I said, we've got something going here. We can't let it go down in flames. I think we can save it. And I think the only way to do that is to buy him out and start our own division. And I don't know how I had the gumption to even think of that idea or put it all together, but that's exactly what happened. So we bought out a division of his company. He took the other one. We took that one and we grew it into a really amazing, profitable event planning, conference coordination, and consulting firm. And I did that for 15 years.
That is incredible.
It was crazy.
I want to go back in time and be a fly on the wall with a group of young 20s who is just we just bought a company and we don't really know what that means.
We don't know what that means. And it wasn't like you write a business plan and do all the things, and a tax collector knocked on our door because we hadn't registered with the city of Los Angeles. And I was like, oh, sorry.
We're supposed to do that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that, asking for forgiveness and asking them to waive penalty fees and things like that. But we figured it out and we really built something amazing, and it still exists, actually, even though I'm no longer there. Yeah.
Where do you think you got the courage to just say, you know what, I don't know what I'm doing and I don't know what this looks like, but we're going to try anyways?
I'm not sure. I think I just had nothing to lose, and I knew I really liked what I was doing. I liked the people I was working with. I liked the work that I was doing. And so it just kind of seemed exciting. Yeah. And we had one client. We still had so I felt like we could still take paychecks. And so it didn't feel that scary and risky to me at the moment, even though now that I look back, it was oh goodness, we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Especially that it still exists. So many businesses, the rate of success is very small.
Yeah.
And so that says a lot about what you and your team members created.
Thanks. Yeah. And it's interesting too to kind of like look back on those statistics, because I can see the arc of like business ownership now where, making it through the first year, making it through the first 5, what the business looks like at 10 years, at 15. And now next year, the company is celebrating their 20th year. And we're all getting back together for a reunion of the partners. So it is kind of cool to see that and track that as I start, building this new venture as well.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about VIDA and your not new venture, because it's been serving Portland for several years now. What was it, 2019?
We're just about to have our 4th anniversary on July 1st.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about what inspired VIDA.
Yeah, so it really stemmed from my own personal need. I'm a single mom to my daughter, Ellie, who is now 10 years old, which is bananas. But at the time, she was just about to turn 5, and I had moved to Portland from LA when I was pregnant with her. And so I was kind of like a remote worker for my own company in a way, because they were all back in LA. And I had hired a few more women here in Portland, and we had a team of 5. And we were all working out of our homes before this was a big thing in the post-pandemic reality. And we'd meet in my tiny living room or like in a, restaurant for lunch, and the bill would be like $250. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this just isn't sustainable.
Yeah.
We all liked each other's company and wanted to be together more often. So I started looking for co-working spaces in Portland. And the options that were available back then just weren't a good fit for me. They really weren't designed for working women. And that's what we all were. And that's really what I was craving, was like beautiful space. I wanted something that like looked like Anthropologie, or, something just beautiful that when you walked in, it felt nice, where it wasn't freezing cold, where I could bring my daughter if I had to, or take a yoga class, or meet with other women who were doing the same things that I was. And it just didn't exist. And so I kind of had one of those aha moments, and I just thought, I can wait for something to come along, or I can take this like vision in my mind and make it reality. And so that's what we did.
Well, and you, the timing of
brutal.
Yeah. So 2019. Who could have predicted, right, the challenges that you faced as an entrepreneur in this space, in this office space right before the pandemic?
Yeah. Place-based business 9 months before. So we opened July 1st.
Yeah.
We had 35% of our memberships pre-sold. We had great momentum going into it. I could see profitability, down the road as I looked at our March numbers. And then obviously the pandemic happened, and we closed for 3 months. And then when we reopened, it was just an entirely different landscape. We had so few members actually when we reopened that everybody got their own private office, no matter what you bought. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You get an office and you get an office. And that's kind of how we did it at the beginning to keep people, separated and safe.
Yeah.
And then I realized, immediately that we had to diversify our business, that day. And so that's what I started working on during those 3 months that we were closed. And we were able to come up with some service lines that really helped get us through. And so we launched VIDA Business Services, which is administrative assistance, virtual VA services for our members and others. We launched VIDA Coaching Services with our in-house life coach at the time. And then the one that really got us through the pandemic is that we launched VIDA School. So we had drop-in childcare pre-pandemic. And so we turned the drop-in childcare space into VIDA School, which was basically our own little pandemic pod of 10 member kids. We hired a full-time teacher. And so she did remote learning with all the kids in the morning on all their different schools. I think there were 4 or 6 different schools represented in the room. It was set up like co-working. So they all got their little co-working desks. And then in the afternoon, they did extracurricular activities. They all ate lunch together. And so it really, it saved us from a revenue standpoint, but also saved those families and those kids. And so the kids actually got a pretty normal school year, including my daughter. And the parents got to continue working. And so it was really this, almost pure representation of what I wanted for VIDA initially, in this way that really helps make life work for our members and our families.
As I'm picturing this pod experience, right? I'm going back to my own experience in my home with my kids. It was not that. No. And I just think what a gift, right, to those working families, to those kids. So kudos to you for, out of survival, right, too, but also recognizing what you could be in control of in a time where everything felt out of control.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And definitely, again, kind of servicing my own needs because I was a single mom with that would have been Ellie's third grade year. Yeah. No, second grade year. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to save this company and educate my child and make sure she has, access to like socialization and all of these things. And what I learned too is that problems and challenges that I'm personally having really kind of ripple through and are kind of this, experience that so many other women are having as well. And so that's really what we're trying to solve for, both with our workspace, but also the amenities that we offer for our members as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, as a leadership team, we actually just were talking about this the other day, and that is the different reactions to fear, right? That fight, flight, or freeze response.
Yep.
And we were talking about it as it related to the pandemic and kind of our own reactions during that time and the ability to really not be immobilized, but instead take your fear and turn it into productive action is, I think, for people who are listening, right? I mean, it's just such a aha moment to say, okay, when I feel myself really paralyzed and immobile, right? What is one step that I could take to move towards what great might look like, even if that is a really imperfect step? One step is better than no steps.
Right. And even if it's super scary, that one step, because if you really take a moment to think about it, just even a tiny bit of forward momentum really does start tamping the fear down, because then you take back a little bit of control over it.
Well, congratulations also on your expansion. You're just 2 months away from your grand opening?
That's right. So we open in Beaverton, which is a suburb here in Portland, on August 1st.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, your space is beautiful. I mean, anyone who checks out your website, it looks like Anthropologie. I'm like, yay, yes, nailed it. You nailed it. I was like this. And I love your mission to say, like, everybody deserves a beautiful place to work. Mm-hmm. And this whole idea of a fully integrated life, right? And just saying the idea that we can, as, especially for working moms, like turn it off and turn it on is just, it's so exhausting.
Yeah.
And so to create a place where people can be tapped into all things without having the guilt of not being fully present at work or the guilt of not being fully present as a parent, right? And creating a workspace that actually supports the life that you want to live.
Thank you. Yes, that's exactly what we were trying to build, because I think when we grew up, it was this idea of like balancing our two selves, right? Like our self and our family selves and our professional and work selves. And, we had our different personas, and we'd put the shoes on in the morning and then take them off at night. But it just doesn't really work like that. And I think, especially this younger generation really understands this idea of like authenticity and kind of like living this authentic life. And we see that they're all just pieces of this one life that we have. And that's really the name of the company, VIDA, is Spanish for life. And that's really kind of the essence of what we're doing, is that we have one. All of these things are in it, and we hope to like serve and support our members and really making the life that they want.
Oh, it's beautiful. What are a few of the lessons that you have learned just starting off out with VIDA? I mean, it seems very different from the way that you started at 23 and this new venture. What are some of the lessons that you learned as a woman entrepreneur?
So this venture was definitely more intentional. And I also had the whole vision that I wanted for the company in my mind when I first started. And so for me, my mostly daily reminder now is that to remember what the vision was and just take those tiny baby steps to making it a reality. So it's like I don't have to veer too far off the path because I have a very clear idea of what I'm trying to create and who I want to serve. And so that would be my first piece of advice, is just whatever your vision is or what you're trying to do in the world, constantly come back to it. Remind yourself of it daily. I, look at my goals weekly and monthly, and I just track them to just be sure that this vision that's so important to me is going to actually exist in the world one day. So that would be the first. The second is also that you just can't control everything. I am a Virgo and a bit of a perfectionist, and growing up, kind of making the to-do list and making sure I was on track. Like, those things are like calming and comforting to me. But then, pandemics happen and, you move and these things happen. And so also being able to have a practice that allows me to be comfortable with change and understand that it's also not the end of the world. And then the third thing is that, with my last company, there were 4 of us who were partners, 3 of us who were founders. And I really loved working with them and working collaboratively with them. But I really wanted to try something on my own for the next thing I did as well. But I also think it's important to really surround yourself with people who you trust and who have skills that you don't, and who really want to be part of the team and also understand the vision.
Brene Brown is one of my favorite authors, and I love her practice and focus on vulnerability. I mean, to your point about just being kind of having a tribe, right, of people that you absolutely trust. And who can understand and buy into your vision and will be in the arena with you, getting mud on their face and dirt on their hands and not, slinging advice from the cheap seats.
That's right. Enough of that.
Exactly. And so I just think, how thoughtful you were even for yourself to know that that's what you needed to create, right? Especially going into a venture where you're like, it's me. Right? I don't have 2 co-founders and a third partner anymore. And so I have to create this community of support in a different way that you're going to need. And you probably did need immediately, right? Going into this curveball. But now, being on the other side of it, and now growing to your second location and having a future vision and being still committed to that path is huge.
Thanks. It's definitely a business, but it's also kind of my passionate and heart work as well, because I really do think that when women are supported externally and internally and with a community around them and have the supports and services they need, we can really thrive and flourish in whatever we choose to do. Be a mom or be a CEO or be on a leadership team or be the head of a nonprofit. It's far more achievable if we can do that in a space that really welcomes and supports that. And so, just, kind of coming back to that all the time and being in the arena with people who believe that and want to see that as well, I think makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. Can I ask you a few questions about just leadership in general?
Yeah, go for it.
You've had a lot of experience as a leader, starting at a very young age. What qualities do you think are crucial for success, particularly for women?
So I think there are so many, and I think there are so many qualities that come naturally to women, actually, to be in a leadership role. And I think the world would be a much different place if there were more women leaders in it. But I think that the ability to bring people in and help support and help put the goal or put the mission and vision out into the world, having a leadership team around you, that women are able to do that really well and in a way that brings everybody up and gets to a goal or a vision faster. So being able to create that kind of team, I think, is a quality that is super helpful on a leadership path. I also think that you need to have confidence in yourself and in others, but mostly in yourself, because there are so many days and moments and experiences that are just soul crushing and so difficult and so hard. And you have to have the confidence to know that you can do it, right? And you can figure it out, right? You're solution oriented and a problem solver, and we can do hard things and all of that. You have to know that at your core, I think, to be able to be an authentic leader. And then being able to help develop that in the leadership team, I think is even a double bonus.
Yeah. This idea of self-confidence is so interesting because I think especially for women, we have all these stories in our heads that we tell ourselves, right, around not being good enough, not being skilled enough, not having the right network, right? And we just say not enough, not enough, not enough. And I read a book in the last couple of years called Speed of Trust. And it was really interesting because the first part of that book, as it relates to trust and the concept of how do you build trust, is about building trust with yourself. And it relates to a practice for how, if you feel like you don't have self-confidence, how could you build that? Like, what is a practice that you can do to actually gain self-confidence? And it was super interesting. And I put it into practice myself. And I have really found that it has helped around doing things on a daily basis and making sure I'm just saying, listen, I'm going to commit to myself that I'm going to do X, Y, Z.
Right.
And how important it is for you to actually follow through on that commitment to yourself, because it, in micro doses builds this trust to say, oh, I followed through on whatever that micro habit was.
Right.
And so it's like this actual very practical tool to say, if a listener hears like, oh, you have to have self-confidence. Well, I don't have that. Well, you can actually do something to build it.
Right.
Yeah. Right. It's okay if you don't have it right now. There are tools that you can use to say, well, if that's what I need, how can I get there?
That's right. Because it is a practice, and it can and does take time.
Yes.
And, especially as girls, and I see it with my daughter growing up, I'm sure you did too. Like, sometimes you have to remind yourself, remind them, like remind everybody your value and your worth. And I think that those microdosing practices eventually do build into something that allows you to just trust yourself and know that you can do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed that you currently serve as chair of the board of directors for Accelerate Women, an organization dedicated to supporting the myriad needs of growth-focused women entrepreneurs. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Sounds very exciting.
It's an amazing organization. I am about a year into my support and leadership on the organization. But Accelerate is actually a statewide organization and supports Oregonian women who have a growth-focused business and want to grow and expand what they're doing to have a greater impact on those they serve. So we do events and learning days. We do a peer mentorship group, so small groups of women who can, kind of have accountability and help each other, kind of along the path. And those are facilitated. And then we also have this really cool coaching pool where we get grant funding. So we pay our coaches, these very accomplished women and some men. And then our clients get the services for free. So you can work with a CFO and help get financial modeling done. And you can work with an SEO expert and help get your SEO set up at no cost to the entrepreneur. So it's really an amazing program. It's pretty concentrated in Portland and Bend right now, but we are expanding outside of these metro areas. And we just hired a permanent executive director. And so we're really excited to grow and reach more women across the state.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
What advice do you have for women who aspire to become leaders or advance in their careers?
If I were to give advice to those who wanted to move into a leadership position or expand their leadership potential, I would say to first work on yourself and do what you need to do to feel strong and confident and healthy, and that you're in a place where you can give and receive so that you're in the best position possible to help affect change and be a leader to those around you. I think it really does start at the core. So that would be my first piece of advice. And then my second piece of advice is just to really understand and believe and imagine why you want to be in a position of leadership. Not everybody has to, and I don't think everybody wants to, but I think sometimes we feel like we need to be. And it's wonderful to be, and it's great to be ambitious and to take new risks and grow and develop. But understanding why you want to do that, I think, is really important so that you can better chart the path that you want for yourself.
I love that. I love how it goes back to your idea of, a vision board and really getting clear with yourself about what life do you want to create.
That's right. And I think at the end of the day, that's what it's about. Like, we only have one.
Yeah.
We only have a limited amount of time on this planet. Let's be thoughtful about what we want to get out of it and who we want to impact and what, where we want to go. And I think, too, the idea of leadership can really, be pointed in so many different directions. You're a leader as a parent and maybe even as a child and maybe in work, but also in a volunteer role. And so there's so many ways to tap into that leadership potential that we all have within us.
Yeah. I'm not good at vision boards. And so the closest I could get to it, knowing that I also wanted to do some work on understanding for myself, like what life do I want? What life do I want next year? What life do I want 5 years from now? What do I envision 25 years from now?
Love it.
I kind of did it kicking and screaming, but everything that I read and, I've got some mentors in my life. They're like, Sarah, you gotta start journaling. I'm like, oh my God, that sounds horrible.
Oh my gosh. Yes, I've been told the same thing.
I know. And so it was one of okay, I can do a hard thing. I'm going to commit to journal for 60 days.
Good for you.
Well, it wasn't easy. And I did gain confidence in that practice over time. And what it helped me to do was it really did allow me to create the time and space in my own life and my own brain to get a little decluttered and get out of the day-to-day to really concentrate on what matters to me most. How old are my kids going to be in 5 years? Like really picturing my life in 5 years and then saying what it matters to me most. Like there are a lot of curveballs that are going to come at you in life. There are a lot of things that we can't control. But if we don't have that idea and compass, right? Or if we don't have our hand on the rudder at all, just because it's like, oh, there's going to be a storm coming, so I might as well not even try. That's where I think we can really lose our sense of control and our sense of being able to pursue that joy, right? Yep. And feel it in the moment.
That's right. And I think it kind of goes back to that idea, for even little kids where it's like, you can't be it if you don't see it. Yeah. Right. And I think that's the same for our own goals, our own vision for our life. If you can't really picture what it is you want to do or where you're going, it's really hard to put the next steps into place. And so even if it's hard, taking some time, and not everybody has to do a vision board or but just sit down with yourself once a year. I always do it around my birthday and just check back in, reassess, see where you're at with your goals, see if anything has changed, and, just keep it a little bit in the forefront of what you're doing. And I think that, there's no way you want to achieve it.
Yeah. Okay. Can we talk a little bit about core values?
Yes, please.
I love the way that you frame VIDA values. We are what we repeatedly do.
Yes.
That is, I think that summarizes the importance of core values so perfectly. And so do you mind if I share yours?
No, please do.
Okay. We take care. Mm-hmm. Everyone wins, deliver excellence, and I know you're not supposed to have a favorite with core values, but I love this one, is be exceedingly helpful.
Yes. Yes. I feel like helpful is kind of the core of who we are at VIDA. We want to be there. We want to get you coffee. We want to welcome you in. And I just feel like sometimes the helpfulness is what is lost in, when you kind of go out into the world, everybody's maybe, assessing their own personal values and their own paths so much that it's hard to kind of bring others along and kind of, hold a hand out to help folks up. And so that one is also my favorite and just really, I think, goes to the core of who I am and who the company is.
Yeah. Well, I can see it in you. and I can see it in your company. And so I think that also shows that your values are alive and well in your organization. They aren't just something that's sitting on a shelf.
Thank you. Yes, it was very important to me that they were actually values that we all embodied and used on a daily basis.
We have also, our values are really important to us, and we also see them as behaviors, right?
Yes.
They aren't aspirational. They are behaviors that represent the best of us when we create a workspace for each other and serve our clients in the way that represents the best of the Partners Group.
Yeah.
So can I share with you what ours are?
Yes, please.
Play well with others.
Love it.
Be a champion, which is so similar to everyone wins,
Yep.
right? So be a champion for us means create winning solutions for all.
Yep.
Be curious.
I love that one.
Seek to learn and ask questions. Own it. Do what you say you're going to do.
Oh my gosh, so important.
And our last, which I think we do really well around here, which is have fun and live well.
Oh, that one really resonates with me. Because if you're not having fun and you're not in an environment that can set you up to live well, it feels like it just can't be a good waypoint on the path of your own life, right?
Yeah.
And so we all, we're running businesses, and so we do need to come to work and get things done. But if you can have fun and live well while doing it, that seems like the best of both worlds.
Well, Melanie, it has been so fun hearing your story and getting this opportunity to share your story.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed talking to you as well. And it's just really inspiring to be around other women leaders. And I'm really in awe of what you guys are doing here at the Partners Group. So thanks for having me here.
Well, thanks for what you're doing in our communities as well. I keep going back to that visual of you and those students in your pod. And I just think it's such a beautiful representation of the heart of you and your company. And I'm so excited that post-pandemic that can grow in new ways, right? And support all women who are making life work.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
This episode of At the Core with Sarah Friend was brought to you by The Partners Group. Visit us at thepartnersgroup.com or find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. We'd love to hear your feedback. At the Core with Sarah Friend is produced by the Partners Group marketing team. Our content writer and editor is Carrie Conroy. Taylor Kapik handles audio engineering and graphics. Kyle Lusk is our podcast administrator, and Alyssa Mueller is in charge of project management and guest outreach. Courtney Atami oversees our podcast production. Find all of our episodes at thepartnersgroup.com, as well as on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Advisory services offered through TPG Financial Advisors, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor and wholly owned subsidiary of the Partners Group, LLC.